Welcome to a very special podcast to bring all of our clients up to speed with what's going on at NECS and version 5. My name is Christopher Anatra, and today I'm with Tony Vlahos. And Tony and myself are going to go through and tell you some of the latest things about what's going on with version 5. Because believe it or not, we finally released it. Right, Tony?
Yep. Released it back in April, and great success too.
Yeah, so we're recording this at the beginning of May. So we're going to bring everybody up to speed with what currently is in the download when you receive it, and then what we're doing going forward as well. So I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to start, we have a PowerPoint presentation I'm going to go through. And you can see that okay, right, Tony?
I can.
Okay, cool.
Looks good.
Entree version 5, ready for download is the title. We thought that day would never come, or we thought it would come a lot sooner than it did, but we're finally there. And there's a lot that we have planned for version 5 going forward. And part of what we're going to talk about is version 5.5, which we've already started to create. We're already into the midst of that. And we'll explain to you why the version 5.5 is going to be important as well. But without any further ado, let's actually get into version 5.0. We'll talk about some things here. The first thing I'm going to read off is our safe harbor statement that we do at the beginning of all of these. The following is intended to outline our general product direction. It is intended for information purposes only. It may not be incorporated into any contract. It is not a commitment to deliver any material code or functionality and should not be relied upon in making purchasing decisions. The development, release, and timing of any features or functionality described for our software remains at the sole discretion of NECS Incorporated.
Now the lawyers are happy.
Yeah, exactly. So now we can dig right into it. So literally on April 28th, 2025, we actually had our first point release of version 5. Version 5.01 was released. So we're already in the midst of having it deployed into our customers' locations, primarily their sandboxes and so forth. And Tony, kind of give us an update about where we are now in the beginning of May with the deployment of version 5.
Yeah, it's being tested in about a dozen distributors. I know of at least one that's gone live, and I think a second is slated to be coming online very shortly. And then, as Chris said, we released 5.0.1 this week, and just like version 4, it's going to be on a 3-week maintenance schedule. So every 3 weeks, you can expect to see another maintenance release. So we're going to continually be adding to version 5, and if there's any issues that get cropped up, they're going to be addressed really quickly.
Yeah, we're putting all of our resources into that. So anything that comes up, we're going to address it as quickly as possible. And I want to make sure that everyone knows the extent that we test things before they go out the door. Tony, just explain to everyone our testing process, because it's pretty intense.
It is. Every piece of work, we refer to them as tickets. Whether it's a bug, it's a feature, a modification that we're doing, that all gets developed independently on its own separate copy of the application. And the developer goes through and he gets that ready, or she'll get that ready. And then it goes through a test cycle from our internal test engineers and our tech support department. Once they clear it and they say, okay, everything's working correctly, then it gets slated for our next upcoming release. The week before that release, everything that was in that basket, everything that was finished during that 3-week cycle would go into a single everything all in one basket build, and it's tested again for another week. Each ticket is given a final test. So it's double tested. And then even more really when you consider there's 2, 3, 4, sometimes 6 different test engineers working on a given ticket. It's really tested well.
Yes, and we put a lot of resources into that because not only do you want a product that works as perfectly as possible out of the gate, so do we. And it makes our life easier too. It makes everyone's life easier. So testing is a big thing. Things still sneak through. because, we've got one single code set for the entire Entree system for, for the main product. And there's so many different options and variables. So we just go through and test everything that we can to make sure that all the different system settings, user-defined settings, et cetera, are all supported with everything that we do. So a big question that we get is, what are your server requirements? Like, will it work with what we have that's running version 4? And so the answer to that is yes. So the server and workstation requirements are the same as version 4. Anything you want to add about that, Tony?
No, I think you summed it up quite well.
Okay. The other thing too is people ask, well, how much more is my software maintenance going to go up? Those kinds of questions. And there is no additional software maintenance costs. What you're paying now for your software maintenance will remain the same, whether you're on version 4 or version 5, or you're beginning to migrate to version 5. The rates are the same. So just to allay that as well. So there is no additional software maintenance costs. The other part too, I'm just say this at the beginning, is that we are currently offering, for those of you that are kind of late to the game or been kind of patiently waiting on the sidelines, we're doing one last promotion. If you'd like to upgrade, 10% off. And we want to thank everyone that took advantage of the 20% off. And thank you for being loyal. We're about a year late for releasing this. And I just want to assure everyone behind the scenes, it was busy, constant meetings, everything going on to make this rollout as successful as possible. So there'll be a limited time, maybe another 30 days or so, and then that 10% will go away. So if you still haven't made up your mind, you've got a little bit more time to do that. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide here. And we're going to get into some of these specific bullet points in some of the other slides, but I'll just read these real quickly. Probably the main feature that you're going to notice right away is how fast the reports are. Dramatically faster. Sometimes so fast you'll think that it did something wrong, because why did this report that took so long now take seconds to run? So that's probably one of the biggest things you're going to see right away. We have also built into it a really good cost and price log tracking. Now we're going to talk about that in more detail, but Tony, just give us like a real high overview about what is cost and price log tracking.
Yeah, sure. For years, and I've been here for over 25 of them, I've heard that a lot of our distributors would like to be able to track who made this price change or who changed this cost, when was it done, why, so on and so forth. So we invested the time to integrate that throughout the whole system. Anytime a cost is changed or a price is changed, even a special price is changed, a bid price, that's all written and captured so that we can report on it, and you can actually now audit who's making those changes in your system. There's also a BI portion of that, business intelligence, that will allow you to kind of see if your pricing and costs are changing in line or if there's any discrepancies. And hopefully that will provide great value as well.
Yep. And we're going to get into that a little bit more as we get into that subject in just a few moments. And then there's some of the screens that we've redesigned, excuse me, cash receipts, system preferences, security manager, et cetera. And go on to the next slide. Something that is coming very soon that we've pretty much already completed. These things are kind of going through testing, et cetera. One is related to allowing your customers to easily pay their bills online, and they could do that with their cell phone, for example. We're going to be including those type of things. There's going to be an inventory counting part of it's actually part of our WMS system that everyone that's upgraded to version 5 is going to get the feature so that they could at least do inventory counting. And then if you wanted to turn on all of the other abilities of the WMS, the warehouse system, that's real easy to do. And there's also going to be some really good business intelligence, real-time reporting and dashboards in the system as well. One has to do with real-time general ledger, and we think a lot of people are going to really like that. So was there anything on any of these bullet points you wanted to add to, Tony?
I think you covered it well.
Okay. Okay. The other thing too is the question we get is, will version 5 support all of the whatever EDIs, et cetera, interfaces that you depend on in the entree system? And how would you answer that, Tony? Because you're involved in the programming, you're leading up our software development team. So
Yeah, it will all work seamlessly. Our engineers here at NECS are went through an extensive training process to understand how to make sure that um, you know the code that we're doing on one side for version 4 is 100% compatible in version 5. That everything is, as we talked about before, tested, and um, we're super confident that you won't have any existing modifications in your system when you upgrade that are not going to work.
exactly. So rest assured with that. And if there was something, we'll be right on top of that to correct that as quickly as possible. Now, before someone goes with version 5, live with version 5, that kind of rhymes, there's an optimization tool that they need to run. So, Tony, tell us about this optimization tool.
All right, to really understand the optimization tool, you have to understand what we did behind the scenes to make the reporting engine so fast. Um, the original reporting engine that we've had since uh, version 2, version 3, all the way forward, uh, relied on collecting data from the tables and calculating out certain values and extending things based on options that you've selected on how that report can be configured. We've taken the time to update the document management system to save a lot of that information right into the database, so it doesn't need to be recalculated at runtime anymore. So, and again, the reason why we didn't do this all along was, back when we got started, a 30 megabyte hard drive was a big deal, and space was at a premium, so you couldn't just save every piece of data. Now that we're into, you know, terabytes of data space, we are much easier allowed to save all the data needed to generate these reports. So what the optimized historical invoice data does is it's going back and all of your invoices that were generated prior to version 5, and it's kind of filling in the blanks. It's looking at those and invoices and getting all of those values that the report engine needs and saving those to the database so that when you run your reports, all that information is going to come out super fast.
Yeah, and this is something they only need to run once, right? Once they run it once, they're good to go forever.
Yeah, that's you run it once, and then the big thing is when you put in your beginning date, it's going to tell you how many invoices it sees in the database that need to be recalculated. It's even going to give you an estimated time of how long it's going to take. So if you're a real big distributor and have a lot of data, it might say that it's going to run for 3 days. Well, I don't have 3 days. You can move the date forward and chunk that out. So this might take you a couple of weeks if you have a lot of invoices, or it might take you an afternoon if you don't have a lot of historical data or your volume isn't as high. But you have complete control of it. You can run this while people in the system. You don't have to have everybody out of the system while it's happening. So you can kind of sit it on a workstation in a corner and let it go to town and do what it needs to do.
Yeah, and so you can do this too even before you start using version 5. You can do it on your version 4 system and have all your data ready to go.
Absolutely. And that's actually what we recommend. So once you decide that you're going to start migrating to E5, even before you set up your sandbox environment, in all the current versions of Entree, I would get on the most recent that's available. Today, that is 4.8.9. Get on the most current copy of Entree and then start going to work on updating your historical invoice data, and anything going forward from that point, from that version, that 4.8.9 version or higher, is going to have the optimized data. So you don't have to worry about anything going forward from that point. Once that's done, then you go ahead and take a copy of your data, put it in your sandbox, and then we'll install version 5, and you can go to work and be blown away by how fast the reports you will run.
Yeah, and you'll find this utility off the system menu, and you'll see it. It's called optimized historical data. So, okay. Now let's talk about report speed. Version 5 reports run over 600 times faster than version 4. That's pretty incredible. Like, that's truly incredible. So we got some graphs on the screen here to show you, give you an idea of what the speed increases are. Invoice register, 99% faster. Commodity report, 94% faster. Gross profit report, 93% faster. Buyer stock status, 89% faster. Physical movements report, 90% faster. You can kind of tell from this, but these are some of the highlights about how much faster things are. And on the right, you'll see a chart showing in red version 4 speeds, and then in blue, the comparison in version 5. So again, very, very dramatic, very dramatic. Anything with this slide you'd want to chime in with, Tony?
No, I think the slide speaks for itself. These were reports run against a very large database. We ran them in-house and captured these numbers. So these aren't just something that we're making up. These are real-time trials against large databases.
Okay, now something else that's new when you start using version 5, you're going to run across these things called user-defined fields. And you can initially set them up under System Preferences. You'll see a new tab there called User-Defined Fields. And then you can define this information and then define how that field works. And then that could be used throughout the system in other areas, most especially reports. But Tony, run us through the thinking about why we did this and then how this feature works.
Yeah, there's always a request. Hey, I need a field for this. I want to report on that. And it really is put into Entree version 5 as a value proposition for our clients so that they don't have to call up and have custom programming done if they want a field to say it's a kosher item, for example. You can just go in here and you can define that, and then that'll go into your inventory maintenance as a checkbox, and you check it off. And it's super simple and super easy. And you can have up to 10 user-defined fields for your item, 10 more for your customers, 10 for your vendors, 10 for your salespeople, and 10 for your users. So you can actually touch user-defined fields to a user too.
Good. And then when they go into the screen, there'll be the type area, and they define what type of user-defined field it's for, items, customers, etc. Then they could put in the information, and then it asks them if the field is going to be text, numeric, date, etc. Explain how this works, Tony.
Sure. Yeah. So and again, this dictates how you want the user-defined field to operate. Is it a text value, a short text value? So maybe it's like the special instructions that we see here. It's up to 20 characters of arbitrary alphanumeric text. The checkbox is a yes/no option. You'll see that showing up in the system as a checkbox in the user interface, and you just click that on or off. We also have the ability to enter in numbers. So you might have a decimal numeric value or a whole numeric value. So you can define on a one with decimals. You can say it's going to be um, up to 999.99. You would define that as 6 maximum length with 2 decimals, and that would give you values up to 999.99. You can also set minimum and maximum values on those numeric ones that, maybe you don't want up to 999. Maybe you only want it up to 150. So you could actually put a ceiling of 150 as a maximum value on that user-defined numeric value. So it would be 0 up to 150.00 and any number in between that. So 75.62 would be a valid value.
Okay.
Same with the whole numbers. And again, you can have the minimum and maximum. So you might have a maximum length of 2 with a ceiling of 75.
Okay.
Checkbox we talked about. You can attach images. So if you want a special image attached to something, you can have an image field. And then text greater than 100 characters. So that's like long text, maybe um, maybe it's a recipe, or maybe you have an ingredient list that you want to attach to an item that you want to copy and paste into the system. That's a perfect place for an ingredient list to go, or even an allergens. You could set up an allergens field as a text greater than 100 characters and drop that into the system. Uh, Really, the sky's the limit. Whatever you can think of, the system should allow you to do that.
Great. Great. And now on this screen, we've got an example of inventory file maintenance. So again, in all the file maintenances, all the main ones, there'll be a new tab here called user-defined fields. So I'm in the inventory file maintenance. And then this tab will open up. And these are all showing all of the user-defined fields that fall into the item category. And then you can define them here. So again, is there anything here that you'd want to talk about, Tony?
Um, No, it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get your hands on it, it's going to be very intuitive and easy to use those, to go and you set the values on those, and you can hit the special instructions. One thing I will say is, if you're getting going on this and you're setting up a user-defined field, and say you have 2,400 items in your database, like we're showing here, and it's like, you know what, I want, you know, this field, but I want it on for everybody. I want all my items to have this certain value, and then I'll go and fix the 200 that aren't that. Reach out to the tech support person. They'll help you with a query to get that user-defined field bootstrap for all your items, so that you don't have to go one by one through 2,500 items or 5,000 items.
Makes sense. Okay. Okay, now another thing, we already mentioned this, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this, is the cost price logging of the system. And Tony, you were describing about how for so many years and years and years, people have been always asking us for this. They always wanted to know the specifics of who did what, who changed this cost, when did they change it, what was the cost before, what was the cost after, or pricing that was changed, etc. So this information is all being logged correct? And then there are these screens that could be pulled up to actually analyze the data. So what are we seeing here, Tony, in this cost price logging screen?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is, over on the top left, you have some filters. So that first most common thing is going to be the date range. What date range do you wish to audit? So this one here has got a wide date range, mostly because the developers here at NECS, we don't really do a whole lot of cost price changes. So we had to kind of open that up to get some data to fill the screen. But I'm sure you'll be working in a much narrower gap. That's where you would define the date parameters. Then we have some filters by brand or class. We also have user drop-down fields, so you can pull that user down. So if you wanted to find out what Bob changed, you put Bob into the user, and only show you the cost or price changes that Bob made in the system. You have process ID, so you can see some process here, uh, almost to the last column on the right for process. So if you wanted to only view from received by purchase order, you could put your process ID to received by purchase order and would filter that down. And then your cost price type, you can see that in almost the last column in the screen there. So maybe you only want to see where real costs or base costs were changed, or minimum sell prices. So that gives you another level of granular control or filter. One of the beautiful things is, say you like this, but you want to play with the data your own way. You can have this come out, and down the bottom left, you'll see a little export button. You can export this data into either CSV or Excel format, put it in Excel, start running pivot tables or anything that you want. So we really not only giving you the tools to work with it inside of Entree, but if you're an Excel genius, you can pull that out and use in Excel, and then push that into different BI tools if you're using a third-party BI tool off from Excel tables. it should make it very easy to capture this data and work with it. We're excited about having this feature.
Yeah, so literally at any point within Entree where someone changes a cost or a price, it's tracked, it's logged.
100%.
Yep. Okay, cool. Now there's another angle to this, which is on the next slide here. Um, the business intelligence angle of this, the BI angle. Do you want to explain how this could work and how our distributors could use this?
Yeah, so what this is doing is it's allowing you to over your filters are the same on the left. Over on the right, though, you can see the chart configuration, what points you want to graph. So we can see that we have a line graph here for real, landed, and base and market costs. And we have bar graphs based off from our sales and our purchases. And then you can use this um, based on how you do business, show the data points that are of importance to you, and then overlay these charts or these lines. There's loop graphs, and there's really a lot that you can do for those people, the analysts, to come in here and drill into the data. Make sure that your your selling prices are rising appropriately with your costs. Make sure you're maintaining margins. One other thing that I didn't point out in the last slide on the left over in those filters is there's a percent difference. So if you're looking for big jumps, say something, it was in both. It's under the filters over uh, on the far left at the top.
Yep.
Under brand, there's a percent difference. So if you want to see variance, like something that's varied by 10%, 20%, 50%, and you want to see those big swing items, you can filter down on that, which should be valuable as well, both in logging and in the BI side.
Excellent. Yeah, so I think you've explained that pretty well. So
Thank you.
yeah, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Now, this has to do with the Food Safety Modernization Act and our goal to make Entree 100%, actually go beyond what the Food Safety Modernization Act is asking for, and especially for using multi-warehouses. And the combination of our new WMS product, our pod product, which is proof of delivery, which the drivers would use, and our MW or multi-warehouse product pulls all of these things together, most importantly related to all how lots are tracked everywhere. Now, Tony, just to explain to people how this is going to work too, what if products are coming into one of our distributors and there is no lot number assigned? How is Entree going to be able to handle that?
Yes, so we're able to track under the hood. So say you don't want to deal with lot tracking at all. So we will be assigning everything into a lot under the hood. That lot, if we're not capturing, will be by receipt. So basically, the whole load of chicken tenders, regardless of what the manufacturer lot is, would be captured under a singular receipt, and then using FIFO um, shipping. So we're going to ship out first in, first out, and kind of do the grunt work behind the scenes. Obviously, for FSMA compliance, you're probably going to want to get those manufacturer lot numbers. So that in a perfect world, that's going to be uh, what you need to do. But not all items are going to be required to have that full-on traceability with the FSMA compliance. So if you want to split it and say, okay, the ones that I have to, I'm going to manage, and then the other ones we'll just let Entree manage under the hood, we can perfectly accommodate that situation. Another thing that we forgot to mention earlier on in the slide with one of those earlier or features that are coming is slotting and inventory, so that you're going to be able to understand it. You really, to do it well, you're going to need the WMS add-on, but you'll be able to know where every box of a given product is in your warehouse because all of your slots are going to be defined, and you'll be able to have quarantine inventory versus regular inventory. That's all coming this year. We're really excited about that.
Yeah, again, everyone, so much stuff going on behind the scenes. And when we release a product, it's like we don't release it and we're done. We release it and we keep enhancing it all the way through, just like all of our other products. For example, the main Entree system, constant state of enhancement and development. Now, some of you have realized that the FDA has pushed this out. Was it 30 months, Tony?
Yes, 30 months
Okay.
or I think
Now,
into 26 now. 27.
Yeah. So, regardless of what the government is doing as well, I think that having these rules for food traceability in the long run benefits everyone. So a lot of people have been felt like they're being pushed into it by the government. But really, if you think about it, food traceability throughout the food supply is so important just to control food waste, right? When there's a recall of a product, let's say there's E. coli found in some produce in Connecticut, they'll like destroy all the produce in all of the northeast of the United States when there could have only been like two lots that were involved with that. So companies like ours, like we haven't been sticking, like the rules say, for certain nut butters or certain produce items or certain seafood items, the rule is going to apply. But we're making it, and other people in the industry have been making it to apply for all the food items, throughout the food supply chain. So whether or not the government mandates it, I think this is something that's really good, and it's something that the industry is going to be adapting to anyway, and not just for those specific items, but literally for every single item that you could sell that could be consumed by a human. So yeah, so all these pieces are coming together, and you'll be more than ready once it's required by law. You will be more than ready to implement this because you'll already be doing it. And I'll go on to the next slide. Okay, now we're kind of going ahead in the future here. Version 5.5. All right, we just got 5.01 out, and now we're talking, this slide's talking about version 5.5.
You should have had a DeLorean on this screen, Chris.
Yeah, Back to the Future. I should have. Um, so version 5.5, we're doing something very important to the entree system. Tony, what is this thing about Postgres and Sybase? Kind of explain this to everyone.
Yeah, so Sybase is a great tool. It's allowed us to do a lot with Entree and makes the system a lot faster. Postgres is really just going to take it to another level. So it's an enterprise level database. It's the same database that we've been using on our .NET platform for years. Super stable. Never have to go through reindexes. Don't have to rebuild it. The stability is phenomenal.
Yeah, did you
It
get,
all
sorry, I just wanted to repeat that. It's fast and it's so stable. And we use it for all of our online systems, and we don't have like any problems with it at all, like virtually zero. So yeah, we're really excited about it. And Postgres is something that we know because we already use it. We just want to build it into the main system. But I just wanted to emphasize that stability, and like reindexing files could go away to some extent, throwing that out there, but I think it's important to mention.
So, and then the other thing that Postgres is going to allow us to do is build clusters and actually leverage multiple database servers to even give you even more performance. So if you have a 100 user or 70 user uh, distribution house, then you are going to really be able to benefit from not only just having one real high performance database service, you could put two or three clusters in there together, all working together to feed the data out to your employees super fast. So it really is going to take Entree to the next level as far as having an on-prem database solution that's scalable.
Now, we've already started this project. This is something else that we're already doing behind the scenes. So, Tony, tell us a little bit about where we're at because people are like, well, version 5.5, when's that going to be ready? Kind of give everyone kind of an idea of what we're thinking for that.
Yeah, right now I would say we're probably still about a year out between development time and testing time. Again, we want to go through everything, make sure that it's super stable before we release it. If I was to make my best guess, I would say, you know, second quarter of 2026 is probably when it will be available to our clients to install. And it's going to be a one-way type of thing. Again, we're going to recommend you do it on your sandbox and it'll be built into the upgrade utility. So you're not going to need a DBA to come in and do all of this craziness. You'd put it on your sandbox. You would go into the update utility. You would set the database to um, Postgres. We're going to throw up a big scary warning. This is a one-way street. You can't go back. it's going to be fine. It's going to work, but we want you to be aware that, once you kick over to Postgres, there's no migration path back into Advantage. Um, and you'll be fine with that. You're going to be so happy when you get over to Postgres. The performance in Entree is it's going to be another major milestone, just like the report system is now. The data will migrate from the Advantage tables into Postgres tables, and that's going to take an amount of time dependent on the size of your database. Realistically, it's going to take some time. One of the things that we're going to do as part of that migration is we're going to take any document data from entree.doc, or if you're having invoices signed with pod, any of those documents that we're storing in the database, we're actually going to pull them out of the database, sideload those into back into the file system, where you think we'll get a little bit better performance, and it'll make your backups a little bit easier. That's another great thing about a Sybase is the backups are going to be so much better, so much simpler. You can have scheduled backups right out of the system hot while your users are in there. It's going to be great value to everybody. So once the data is migrated over, you just start Entree and you work as normal. The same version of Entree that you're running will work with either Advantage or Postgres. So you can be an early adopter into Postgres, or you can just sit on Advantage and wait a little while. It's not like, oh, I'm on 5.5, I have to go to Postgres. You make that switch when you're ready.
And then a question people might be asking is, well, how much is Postgres going to cost?
$1 million. No, that's Postgres is at the great value price of $0. It doesn't mean that it is worth nothing. It just means that it's part of the community, and it was developed under an open source license. It's used in a lot of major production systems that you're familiar with. I don't have a slide to show you all the things that are powered by Postgres, but you'd be shocked at the big names that use it. It's a really good platform.
Yeah, and you guys can do your own research on that. But Sybase, there was a fee because Sybase charges for their SQL database. Postgres, like Tony said, there's no charge for that. So it's going to be part of, the version 5 upgrade. You're just going to get the Postgres. So it's a win-win for everybody with this one. Okay, let's talk about custom programming. Because every once in a while we get requests from clients that need certain things changed within the Entree system that may not be there. And so Tony's in charge of that development team where we're actually, looking at those requests and doing the work on that. So we kind of find ourselves in the same situation that we did when we went from version 3 to version 4, where people were still through the transition period. They were giving us projects to work on. And we needed to know, is this something that they wanted us to do in the older version, in the new version, both versions? So kind of explain to us, like, why we need to ask this question and how the development branches work, just to kind of give people an idea.
Yeah, so as we alluded to earlier, the version 5 project and the version 4 project are actually separate products under the hood. We have to do code, whatever we code on one side, you code it, and then you have to go to another set of platform, and it's actually coded twice. So the developers are doing the work twice, once for version 4 and then once again for version 5. The recommendation that I have is that you're going to want to get on version 5 as soon as possible, because then you're only going to have to pay for the custom programming on one side. You don't have to pay for us to backport it into version 4 for your use. And if you purchase it for version 4 only, and then you upgrade a year from now, there's a chance that it might be a little bit buggy when you get it into version 5, and you're going to have to go through extensive testing, even if it was working perfectly good in version 4, because the developer did it a year ago, and we only coded it on version 4. So it's my recommendation is to get on 5 as soon as possible, so that if you do have custom programming, we're able to give a discount if it's only done on version 5, because we don't have to code it in 2 places.
Yeah, so when you guys see quotes from us, going forward in the future, we're gonna want you to specify that for us. And like Tony says, it really is especially our advantage and yours as well, that we start coding everything for version 5. because I think it's only a matter of time before you're going to want to go to version 5 and just take advantage of all the things inside of it, and all the new things are going to be adding to it along the way.
But again, if you're not ready to go to version 5 right now, definitely take that version 4 and version 5 option, because that way there it's going to be all done at one time, tested together, and the chances of your modification working correctly when you do get to version 5 are much higher.
Yeah. Okay, so this gives everyone kind of an overview about what's going on. If you have your sandbox ready, if you want to start playing with version 5 in your sandbox, it's ready to go. Yeah, is there anything last minute you'd want to tell everyone, Tony?
Um, the only thing that I would say is, again, I can't. We knew here, the development team knew how amazing that version 5 was. It's great to hear it coming back from the customers. The customers that have gotten their hands on it, nothing but great things to say. And absolutely, it's one thing for us to say, yeah, it's faster. It's a completely different when you get it in your hands and you see with your data, something that would take you 20 minutes happening in a minute.
Exactly. And it's also lessening the amount of network traffic as well, right? Because most of the activities are happening on the server itself instead of going back and forth between the workstations.
Correct. The network traffic is reduced. It does put a little bit heavier load on the database server. But if you're to look at the map of your server, if you look at like the task manager and see what your database server is using for resources right now, like, oh, it's not doing anything. Well, we're going to start leveraging that database server to collect that data and filter through that data. And so we're going to make that machine do more than just house the data. It's actually going to serve the data.
Great. Well, I think that gives everybody like an up-to-date where we are with version 5 in the beginning of May. And there's going to be a lot more things going on as the months and years continue. And I want to thank all of you for being loyal clients of ours, putting your faith and trust in us. And we want to do everything we can to make sure that we fulfill that for you. And that is always you feel good about using the entree system. And it really becomes the center of, your operation, so to speak, center of the plate of your operation, so to speak, of your data processing needs. And the company is going to continue to do these things that you need. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Until our paths cross again.